How we doing?
Good. How do you kind of explain the defense going from the disruptive force we saw earlier in the season to what we saw Saturday?
Yeah, I think we had some issues on the back end. We had a couple guys out, and using Q-Lake as an integral part to us. Mo Osling was down in the game, didn't have Mo. So we had challenge at secondary, challenging at depth. Kenny Churchill went down in the game. So we were a little bit inexperienced back there. Penalties hurt us a little bit. I think sometimes extending some drives and giving them some extra opportunities. So, those are a couple of the issues that we identified watching the tape.
Are you still cross-training the DBs for safety and corner? So
Say that again. Depends on who it is. Devin Kirkwood stays at one position. He just got here. Not everybody does that. There's a few kids. Mo is one of those guys that's a corner safety, but Mo is down. But not everybody plays both positions.
Kenny and Q, are they going to be able to?
We're going to see what they're what they can push through today. So,
when your defense is kind of pressure based like yours is, and a team like ASU picks it up pretty well, how do you adjust?
I think you have to adjust and kind of we played a little bit more zone in the second half. Try to protect our guys on the back end, but then we got to get home with a 4-man rush on the front end. So there's an ebb and flow depending on how that goes. So that's part of it is you can't rely on as much pressure, because when you rely on a lot of pressure, then you're putting your guys on the back end in one-on-one situations. And, you can't always put them in one-on-one situations. So.
The penalties, a lot of them were going pretty veteran guys.
There were just two big ones. The two unsportsmanlike, I think they were really detrimental to us. And then we just talked about you have to play with emotion. You can't let emotion play with you. And then sometimes, we talked about being disciplined going into the game. They were a more penalized team, I think, in the conference going into the game. But we had more penalties than those guys, and that was a first for us. So obviously those self-inflicted wounds we have to correct.
Yeah, the bad snap for the fumble.
Yeah.
ASU recovers. What can you do with your?
It's a fundamental thing. It's no different than missing a block or missing on a tackle. It's just it was one of, I think we ran 80-something plays in the game. It was one of 80. But Duke knows that, and Duke works very hard at that. So it's a fundamental thing that we'll correct.
What about the run game? It wasn't quite as effective Saturday. What did you see looking at the film?
I thought we ran the ball really well in the first half, and then a little bit in the second half we got behind. So we threw the ball a little bit more. That was more by play design than not that the run game wasn't working. So.
With regards to the penalties, you guys are 89th in the country. You're in the bottom half of the country in terms of.
I think our entire conference is in the bottom half of the country. So I think it could be reflective of the conference at the whole. So I don't think sometimes when you look at statistics, you got to look at the whole thing. So we're not the most penalized team in our league. There's other teams that are a lot more penalized than we are. But I know our league, all 12 teams are in the bottom half of the country. So that's just what you have to deal with in this league.
Why do you think that is? What do you think that says about the conference? Is it the officiating? I know you're not going to say it's the officiating.
That is not my deal. That is we need to make sure that we don't put ourselves in harm's way. There are some penalties, that you can live with, but the two unsportsmanlikes were, were two things we just can't do that. So that's part of what we deal with.
Is it fair to expect more discipline from a team that's one of the most experienced teams in the country?
It's fair to expect it from anybody. There's no excuses, so we don't make excuses for anybody. We don't say I don't say a senior can't have a penalty, but a freshman can't have a penalty. It's we have to make sure that we're not hurting ourselves. Is what we're doing on play to play helping us get closer to our goal, and our goal is to win. So if it's not helping us get closer to our goal, then we need to correct it.
Well, go ahead. How do you think you've run the ball when you're in a formation that's spread out a little compared to a tighter formation when the tight ends are tighter and in line?
That's a good question. I'm just trying to go through what our run game is spread. I think we've been fairly balanced from that standpoint. I think we've done a good job of that. So. I don't have the numbers offhand, so I couldn't give you.
Generally, you run better when your formations have been spread out rather than.
Yeah, that's arbitrary on what you're looking at. So are you going on yards per carry, or are you going on the efficiency of the play? That's sometimes I think when you look at the data points, you can look at it different ways on how you're doing that. What's your expected value of that run, depending on the situation in the game. So there's a lot more that's into that than to just arbitrarily looking at what's your yards per carry on that play. And then some of that gets skewed because you could have 4 carries, one's for 90. And 3 for -6, -5, and -4. But then you look at the play and say we got 4 plays and we're getting 60 yards a pop. We're not getting 60 yards a pop. We had 1 long run and then we had 3 inefficient runs. So I think when you really look at the statistics, it depends on how that plays out.
So that's why I was asking your opinion.
Yeah, I think a lot of that goes into it. And I can't give you offhand what's our run game out of spread versus tight ends. But there's a lot more that goes into that, and it's really the efficiency quotient from that.
You look back at the film of the second half offensively beyond. I know you said you couldn't get beyond the penalties, but
Well, you can get beyond the penalties. You know, again, we got to execute. We had the ball down inside. You know, we got to score when we get the ball in the red zone. You know, we didn't capitalize on that. We've been a really good red zone team, but when we came away with 0 points there, I think that was a critical point in the game. We got to come away. And we should have been able to punch it in that situation. You know, we got to do a little bit better job. I got to do a better job of play calling down that situation, put ourselves in better place. And that's all the things that we look at when we watch film on Sundays.
Was that a real read option on DTR's part when he pulled that ball back and took it when you're down at?
On that last play, yeah,
Yeah.
that was a read play.
Any update on Sam Raza?
Sam's unavailable today.
What about Mike Martinez?
Mike's unavailable still today.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.